A black waiter was just doing his job until one moment changed everything. When a white mother accused him of something terrible, his life was shattered in seconds. But months later, a hidden truth caught on camera shocked the whole nation. What really happened that day in the restaurant will break your heart, and then restore your faith in humanity. In a quiet suburban town in the American South, the evening rush was in full swing at one of the city's finest restaurants. It was a place known for its elegant atmosphere and attentive service, a place where families celebrated milestones and couples enjoyed romantic dinners. Among the staff was Marcus, a black waiter who had worked there for 3 years. He was well liked by his co-workers and regular customers alike for his polite demeanor and his genuine smile. Marcus took pride in his work, always making sure every guest felt welcomed and cared for. That evening, Marcus was assigned to a family celebrating their young daughter's 2nd birthday. The parents were well-dressed and appeared affluent, chatting softly while the little girl sat in a high chair, eagerly waiting for her cake. Marcus approached their table with a warm smile and carefully served their drinks. He noticed the child playing with a small toy, giggling happily, and he felt a quiet joy in seeing such innocence. For Marcus, these moments made all the long hours worth it. As the evening unfolded, the restaurant buzzed with chatter and clinking glasses. Marcus moved gracefully between tables, refilling drinks and answering requests with calm efficiency. Then suddenly, a sharp cry cut through the background noise. The birthday girl had slipped from her high chair, landing awkwardly on the floor. The mother gasped loudly, her face draining of color. Without hesitation, Marcus moved toward the child. He crouched down and gently picked her up, cradling the baby close, checking for any sign of injury. It was a natural response. Anyone with a bit of kindness and quick reflexes would do the same. But in that moment, everything changed. The mother's panic turned to hysteria. She screamed at Marcus, accusing him of harming her baby, her voice rising until heads turned across the room. The father stood frozen, unsure whether to intervene or trust his wife's instincts. The manager, who had been nearby, rushed over, listening briefly to the mother's frantic claims. Without asking Marcus for his side, the manager told him to leave immediately and said he was being fired. The restaurant fell silent, the air thick with shock and confusion. Marcus, stunned and hurt, tried to explain. He told them he was only trying to help the child who had fallen. But no one would listen. Customers whispered among themselves, some looking at him with suspicion, others with outright hostility. Marcus's uniform felt heavier than ever as he walked out the door, the weight of unfair judgment pressing down on him. The incident was over in minutes, but the damage was already done. What had been a moment of compassion was twisted into a story of danger and mistrust. The mother later posted a video on social media, showing her frantic reaction but carefully editing out the part where Marcus was actually helping her daughter. The clip quickly went viral, shared thousands of times with comments accusing Marcus of something terrible. Racist undertones filled the comment sections, with strangers attacking Marcus's character and questioning his intentions based solely on the color of his skin. The media picked up the story, framing it as another example of racial tension in America. News outlets ran headlines that implied guilt rather than innocence. The restaurant's reputation became entangled in the controversy, and Marcus found himself at the center of a storm he never anticipated. For Marcus, the experience was devastating. Losing his job was only the beginning. He faced a wave of public shaming that made it difficult to find new work. Employers hesitated to hire someone so publicly accused, regardless of the truth. Friends and family tried to support him, but the constant barrage of hateful messages online made even the simplest days feel unbearable. Marcus questioned whether justice would ever find him. Behind closed doors, the mother never reached out to Marcus to clarify or apologize. Her initial panic had spiraled into a refusal to accept any other version of the story. She moved on with her life, while Marcus's was put on hold. This moment, that fleeting event in a busy restaurant, became a symbol of something much larger, a reminder of how quickly a single false accusation, fueled by fear and prejudice, can ruin a person's life. It also showed how easily social media can spread misinformation, shaping public opinion before facts are properly examined. Marcus's story was far from over. But at that moment, as he left the restaurant for the last time wearing a heavy heart, it felt as though the world had turned its back on him. The fallout from that night was swift and merciless. The video the mother posted spread like wildfire across social media platforms. In the clip, she appeared frantic and scared, her voice trembling as she accused Marcus of wrongdoing. But the video carefully omitted the part where Marcus was gently lifting the child, trying to comfort her after the fall. It was edited to create a narrative that painted Marcus not as a hero, but as a threat. Within hours, Marcus's name was trending. The comments section exploded with hate-filled messages. Many users blindly accepted the mother's version of events, fueling the flames of racial prejudice. Some comments were outright racist, calling Marcus dangerous, untrustworthy, and accusing him of intent to harm solely based on the color of his skin. Strangers he had never met made harsh judgments, vilifying him without hearing his side of the story. The restaurant, feeling the pressure of the viral controversy, issued a vague public statement confirming Marcus's termination but saying little about the details. Management avoided taking responsibility or defending him. It was clear that protecting the restaurant's image mattered more than justice or truth. Marcus watched helplessly as the world he had worked so hard to build around him crumbled. The hate messages continued day after day. Calls for boycotts against the restaurant included demands that Marcus be permanently blacklisted from the service industry. Every time he tried to apply for a new job, potential employers saw the viral videos and the negative attention attached to his name. Doors closed in his face before he even had a chance to explain. The emotional toll was devastating. Marcus's confidence was shattered, and the constant barrage of public scorn pushed him into isolation. He stopped answering his phone, avoided social media entirely, and withdrew from friends and family. Nights were the hardest. Alone with his thoughts, he replayed that moment again and again, questioning if there was anything he could have done differently. The unfairness of it all stung deeply. His family tried to lift his spirits, but even their love could not erase the pain of being publicly branded as a criminal without cause. Marcus's mother cried quietly, reminding him he was not alone, but the stigma weighed heavily on all of them. His younger siblings looked at him with confusion, unsure why people they had never met were calling their brother dangerous. It was a cruel lesson in how deeply racial prejudice still ran. Meanwhile, the mother who had accused him moved on with her life as if nothing had happened. She did not respond to calls for a statement or clarification. There was no public apology, no attempt to explain her panic or the misunderstanding. Her silence only fueled rumors and speculation, while Marcus bore the full weight of the accusations. The news media seized on the story as another flashpoint in America's ongoing racial divide. Headlines were filled with sensationalized accounts, focusing on the dramatic firing and viral outrage, but offering little context or follow-up. The focus was on controversy rather than the truth. Some commentators used the incident to push narratives about dangerous black men, reinforcing harmful stereotypes that have persisted for decades. Marcus became a symbol not for heroism or compassion, but for a cautionary tale about racial bias and injustice. His identity was reduced to a single viral moment, stripped of his humanity and all the kindness he had shown throughout his life. It was as if the world had already judged him guilty before he had a chance to speak. The weight of the public backlash extended beyond his personal life. Marcus's mental health deteriorated under the relentless scrutiny and condemnation. Anxiety and depression crept in, making everyday tasks feel overwhelming. Sleep became elusive, and the future seemed bleak. He felt trapped in a nightmare that he could not wake from. Despite the darkness, a small part of Marcus held on to hope. He believed that one day, the truth would come out. That someone would look beyond the viral clips and racist assumptions to see what really happened that night. But that hope was fragile, tested daily by the harsh reality of public opinion and systemic injustice. Friends and former co-workers quietly rallied around him, sharing messages of support and trying to amplify his side of the story. Yet their voices were often drowned out by the louder chorus of outrage and misinformation. It became clear that clearing his name would be a battle far bigger than just one man. Marcus began searching for ways to fight back, reaching out to local activists and legal aid groups who specialized in wrongful accusations and racial discrimination. But legal battles take time and money, resources he no longer had. Meanwhile, the world outside continued to see only the viral video and the distorted narrative it created. The incident became a stark example of how quickly social media can destroy a person's life. It showed how fear and prejudice can twist moments of kindness into moments of suspicion. And it revealed how, even in 21st century America, the color of a man's skin can determine whether he is seen as a hero or a threat. Marcus's story was not unique, but it was deeply personal. It was the story of countless others who have been judged unfairly, dismissed, or punished because of their race. And though he had been silenced by the storm of hate, a part of him still longed for the chance to be heard, to show the world who he truly was beyond the viral accusations. Until then, Marcus lived in the shadow of that fateful night, waiting for the moment when the truth could finally be revealed. After losing his job and facing the unrelenting wave of public backlash, Marcus's life entered a long, dark chapter marked by struggle and silence. Days stretched into weeks, and weeks into months, with no clear end in sight. The steady rhythm of work that had once given his life purpose was gone, replaced by a gnawing uncertainty about what the future held. His savings began to dwindle as bills piled up, and each rejection letter from potential employers chipped away at his hope. No one seemed willing to hire a man branded by a viral video that cast him as a villain. Even after attempts to explain his side privately, the stigma followed him everywhere. The world had already made its judgment, and no amount of truth or explanation seemed to matter. It was as if the digital mob had sentenced him before any real justice could be served. Friends tried to encourage Marcus to stay strong, but even their warm words felt distant. The isolation wrapped around him like a heavy cloak. Social media, once a place for connection and fun, had become a minefield of hateful messages and reminders of the incident. He stayed offline as much as possible, shutting out the noise, but the scars were already deep. His family stood as his quiet support, but their efforts could only do so much. At home, the atmosphere grew tense as financial strain and emotional pain took their toll. Marcus's mother worked extra shifts, determined to keep the household afloat, but she worried about her son's spirit. His younger siblings sensed the change too, no longer the lively brother who laughed easily and dreamed big, but someone worn down by an invisible weight. The nights were the hardest. Alone in his small apartment, Marcus wrestled with feelings of shame and helplessness. He replayed the restaurant incident endlessly, questioning himself, was there anything he could have done differently? Why had no one believed him? The truth seemed trapped beneath a wall of prejudice and fear, unreachable and ignored. In moments of despair, Marcus wondered if the world had changed at all. How could an act of kindness be turned into an accusation? How could people so easily condemn a man without knowing the facts? The very system meant to protect and serve him seemed indifferent. It was a painful awakening to realities many refused to acknowledge openly: the persistence of racial bias, the power of social media to distort, and the fragility of reputation in a digital age. Despite the harshness of his situation, Marcus refused to give up completely. A quiet resilience burned inside him, fueled by memories of his mother's advice to always stand for what is right, no matter the cost. He reached out to local advocacy groups that fought against racial injustice and wrongful accusations. They offered him guidance, legal advice, and most importantly, a sense that he was not alone in this fight. With their help, Marcus began to gather evidence, statements from co-workers and customers who knew him well, and attempts to document the full story. Yet progress was slow, and the path to clearing his name felt like an uphill climb through thick fog. The digital court of public opinion moved faster than any legal process, and the damage done could not be undone overnight. Marcus also found solace in small acts, talking with counselors who helped him manage anxiety and depression, reconnecting with old friends who reminded him of his worth beyond the viral controversy, and spending quiet moments reflecting on who he was apart from the pain. Each day was a battle, but slowly, he began to reclaim pieces of his identity that the world had tried to erase. At the same time, the world around Marcus seemed to move on. The mother who had accused him faced little to no consequences, her life largely untouched by the chaos she had unleashed. The incident became a distant headline for many, replaced quickly by the next viral story. The silence from her side was a constant reminder of the imbalance, how those with power and privilege often escape accountability, while those without pay the price. Still, Marcus held on to the hope that the truth would emerge. He believed that justice, even if delayed, was possible. Deep down, he knew that clearing his name would mean more than just restoring his reputation. It would mean standing against a system that too often punished people like him without fair consideration. His story became a quiet beacon for others who had faced similar injustices, a reminder that behind every viral scandal was a human being with dreams, fears, and dignity. Marcus began to speak cautiously to trusted reporters and activists, sharing his experience in hopes that it might spark a broader conversation about race, media, and justice. But even as he took tentative steps toward reclaiming his life, the emotional wounds lingered. Trust had been broken, and the scars of public shaming would not heal overnight. The road ahead was uncertain, but Marcus's spirit, though battered, remained unbroken. The months of struggle were a crucible, testing everything he believed about fairness and humanity. Yet in that fire, something stronger was forged: an unyielding resolve to fight back, to tell his truth, and to seek the redemption he so desperately needed. Months after the incident, when it seemed like the story would fade into the background of public consciousness, a surprising twist emerged. A new video surfaced, one that would challenge everything the world had believed about Marcus and that fateful night. It was captured by a nearby restaurant's security camera, a small detail that no one had noticed before. The footage showed Marcus calmly performing life-saving first aid on the child after she fell, applying the Heimlich maneuver as the baby struggled to breathe. The video was clear, undeniable proof that Marcus had not harmed the child but had in fact been trying to save her life. The moment this footage came to light, the narrative began to shift dramatically. People who had condemned Marcus were forced to reconsider their assumptions. The new video spread quickly, going viral across social media, this time as a story of heroism rather than suspicion. The overwhelming wave of support that had been absent before now poured in. Comments changed from hateful accusations to apologies and praise. Strangers who had called Marcus dangerous were now calling him a hero. For Marcus, seeing the video was a powerful moment. It was validation not just of his innocence, but of his integrity and humanity. Yet, it was also painful to realize how long the false narrative had dominated the conversation. The damage done to his reputation, his livelihood, and his mental health could not be undone with a single viral clip. Still, the truth finally had a chance to be heard. The media scrambled to cover the new development. Major news outlets ran updated stories, focusing on the shocking reversal and the broader implications for how quickly misinformation can spread and ruin lives. Journalists began asking harder questions about how Marcus had been treated and why the restaurant had fired him without a proper investigation. The incident became a case study in racial bias, the dangers of viral judgment, and the need for careful fact-checking. The public apology came soon after. The mother who had accused Marcus appeared on a nationally televised news program, visibly emotional and tearful. She admitted her panic had overwhelmed her judgment and expressed deep regret for the pain she had caused Marcus and his family. Her apology was met with mixed reactions. Some praised her courage to admit fault, while others criticized her for the initial damage and the long silence before taking responsibility. Meanwhile, the restaurant issued a formal statement expressing regret over how the situation was handled, acknowledging mistakes made in firing Marcus prematurely. They offered him an apology and invited him to return to work. But Marcus's journey was no longer just about a job, it was about reclaiming his dignity and fighting for justice. The video's release sparked a broader conversation about the systemic racism embedded in society. Activists used Marcus's story to highlight how people of color often face disproportionate suspicion and are frequently denied the presumption of innocence. The incident became part of ongoing discussions on police reform, media responsibility, and social media ethics. Marcus found himself invited to speak at rallies, panels, and interviews, his voice becoming a symbol of resilience and truth. At the same time, Marcus faced the complicated process of healing. Public vindication did not erase months of emotional pain and isolation. Trust, once broken, took time to rebuild. Some old wounds reopened as the story resurfaced in the spotlight. But this time, Marcus had allies, friends, family, activists, and even strangers who reached out to support him. New job offers arrived, not just from restaurants but also from organizations committed to social justice, eager to involve Marcus in their work. He began to consider a path beyond waiting tables, a chance to use his experience to educate others and fight the injustices he had endured. Yet Marcus never lost sight of the deeper lessons. The incident had revealed painful truths about how society views black men, how fear can distort reality, and how powerful social media can be for both harm and healing. It also showed the importance of patience, courage, and perseverance in the face of overwhelming odds. Though the road ahead remained uncertain, the new video was a turning point. It transformed Marcus from a victim of false accusation into a powerful advocate for change. His story reminded the world that behind every viral headline is a human life deserving of fairness and compassion. The day the video went viral again was the day Marcus began to believe that justice, though slow, was possible. It was the day the silence started to break, not just for him, but for many others who suffer in the shadows of prejudice and misinformation. With the truth finally coming to light, Marcus's life slowly began to transform. The viral video that cleared his name opened doors he once thought were permanently closed. More than just the restoration of his reputation, it sparked a personal awakening and urgent desire to ensure that no one else would have to endure what he had suffered. He decided to channel his experience into activism. Marcus began collaborating with organizations dedicated to fighting racial injustice and wrongful accusations. He shared his story at community centers, schools, and online forums, highlighting how quickly fear and bias could destroy a life. His message resonated deeply, especially among young people who faced similar challenges in a world that often judged them by their skin color before their character. The media spotlight continued, but this time it was different. Instead of being a target, Marcus became a voice of hope. He spoke candidly about mental health struggles, the importance of resilience, and the need for systemic change. His story helped spark conversations that reached far beyond his hometown, influencing debates about police reform, media accountability, and the responsibilities of social media platforms. Despite his growing public presence, Marcus remained grounded in his roots. His family, once burdened by the weight of his ordeal, now stood proud. His mother, who had worked tirelessly to support him, was overjoyed to see him regain confidence and purpose. His younger siblings admired the courage he showed and the positive change he was inspiring. Marcus also found peace in rebuilding his personal life. He reconnected with friends he had drifted away from during the darkest times. He found comfort in simple joys, long walks, quiet evenings with family, and the chance to pursue new interests. Slowly, the shadows of doubt and pain began to lift, replaced by a growing sense of empowerment. At the same time, Marcus understood that the fight was far from over. The systemic issues that had allowed his story to spiral out of control remained deeply embedded in society. He recognized the need for continued vigilance and advocacy to prevent future injustices. This awareness fueled his determination to keep pushing for change. He started organizing workshops on implicit bias and racial profiling, aiming to educate both community members and law enforcement officers. Marcus believed that real change required understanding and empathy on all sides. His efforts received support from local leaders and activists who saw in him a powerful example of courage and transformation. Financially, things improved as well. New job offers came from organizations valuing his leadership and advocacy experience. Marcus chose to work with a nonprofit focused on racial justice and community support. This role allowed him to make a tangible difference while building a new career aligned with his values and passions. Yet Marcus never forgot the lessons learned through hardship. He remained humble, aware that his story was one of many. He made it a priority to uplift others who faced similar struggles, using his platform to amplify voices often ignored or silenced. His activism was rooted in solidarity and compassion, born from his own journey through pain and redemption. The restaurant that fired him eventually settled a legal case out of court, offering compensation and a public apology. While Marcus accepted this as a small measure of justice, he emphasized that true change required more than financial settlements. It demanded a shift in how society perceives and treats black men and other marginalized communities. Over time, Marcus's story inspired others to speak out. Survivors of false accusations, victims of racial profiling, and advocates for justice found hope in his example. His experience became part of a larger movement pushing America to confront uncomfortable truths and work toward a more equitable future. Marcus's life was no longer defined by a viral video that spread hate and misunderstanding. Instead, it became a testament to the power of truth, resilience, and the human spirit. His journey from accusation to vindication and from pain to purpose showed that even in the darkest moments, hope can survive and lead to profound change. As Marcus looked ahead, he remained committed to his mission. The scars of the past had shaped him, but they did not define him. With every speech, every workshop, and every story shared, he honored not only his own experience but also the countless others still waiting for their voices to be heard. In the end, Marcus's story was not just about one man wrongly accused, it was about the ongoing struggle for justice, dignity, and understanding in a society still grappling with its deepest divisions. And through his courage, the world was reminded that change, though often slow, is always possible when truth and compassion prevail. The end. Thank you for watching this story. Marcus's journey reminds us how important it is to listen, to seek the truth, and to stand against injustice, especially when it comes to racism and wrongful accusations. If this story moved you, please share it with others. Together, we can raise awareness and help change the way society treats those who are too often judged unfairly. Remember, behind every viral headline is a real person with hopes, fears, and a story worth hearing. Let's choose empathy over judgment, and kindness over hate. If you want to see more stories that inspire, challenge, and open hearts, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Until next time, stay strong, stay compassionate, and keep fighting for justice.